Yeah, we may have to deal with that problem sooner than later. Nobody wants to listen to a rooster all the time. Get from here, dude. Go on. Good morning. We're out in the garden. Just going to talk about a couple little things real quick here. Get the gate latched up, keep the marauders out. For those of you that don't remember, marauders are my chickens. Turn your back on them, they'll get in here and clean out everything. It's windy already. It's warm already. It's not bad though. It's about 84 degrees, something like that. But I'm just coming out here to give it a dose of water. We've been well over 100 degrees the last few days, and everything's drying out, and we'll try to keep it alive. You know, in years past, I have tried to water just as if it was an apocalyptic kind of thing, just using rain and what water I caught and doing it that way, and had pretty abysmal luck to a degree. Tomatoes finally turning red because we hadn't been getting any rain, and it brings home a real good point. You've got to get the rain in order to do it that way. I've got a lot of volunteer stuff that's come up out here. A lot of the seeds I planted were older seeds. I've been planting some of them every year, trying to figure out how long they last, and I think we finally hit that point. Some of them came up, some of them didn't. And but some volunteer stuff, like there's a whole bunch of little cantaloupes that all came up together. That squash, those cantaloupes, those little tomatoes, all were volunteer stuff. Those potatoes were volunteers left over, and those are some dried out ones I found and put in the ground, and they did real good. The peppers, I bought those. The peppers there I planted, they didn't come up. Planted that stuff. No, I take it back, that little cantaloupe right there's a volunteer. And then there's a whole bunch of volunteers, little tomatoes coming up in that area right there, and one squash back over there if the chickens didn't match it. I caught a chicken in here a while ago. There we go. Yeah, not good for it. I'll tell you what. Anyway, one of the things I want to talk about out here, we're going to look at weeds. In the world of weeds, there's good weeds and bad weeds. And we're going to talk about both. And I know that's a strange thing to say, something about a good weed. But a lot of these weeds are very edible. In fact, they're very good. And part of this is actually going to be directed to Steve over at Corsair Trainers, because we've been talking about tumbleweeds and that kind of thing. And tumbleweeds are not real good when they get big. I was going to show you a dried out one. I'll see if I can overlay a picture. Well, heck, right there's a tumbleweed. Now, we do not want to eat that dry, nasty thing in any way, shape, or form. I don't even like touching them. They got stickers all over them. But when they're young and small, like this guy right here, they're still quite good. There's another one, lots of little ones. There's another little bitty one right there. There's one. When they're that size, we'll just get that guy right there. Shake the dust off of it. When they're this size, they're pretty good. And this one's actually a little bit past where it should be, a little bit too big. It's still tender and good, but it doesn't have that flavor as much as it should. And I don't even know how to describe the flavor it has. Kind of sweet, kind of, I don't know. It tastes like a tumbleweed, I guess. There's a couple of small ones right there. I may take those in and scramble some eggs in with them. But it's pretty good. And I have to admit, I've never looked into the nutritional value of young tumbleweeds. I'm sure somebody has. And of course, y'all can make the jokes about how long does it take Rob to chew up a handful of tumbleweeds with no more teeth than he has anymore. Maybe we'll start a poll. But I can tell you they're chewed at this point. There's some other good weeds out here too. Now, when you look down here, you see a bunch of stuff that's not good weeds. All these little dudes, these little fuzzy ones right there. That one, that one, that one. Those are called ironweeds. We don't like them at all, ever, at any stage of their life. That right there is an ironweed that I left there just to kind of help make a little wind block. They don't do any good, and as far as I know, they're not edible. I've never eaten one anyway. But we got lots of little lamb's quarter that have come up too. Find a lamb's quarter that's a little bigger, easier to see. Right over here's one. In with the tumbleweeds. There we go, there's lamb's quarter. A couple of them. Lamb's quarter. Now, a little side note about lamb's quarter. Lamb's quarter is good all the way up until it's 6 feet tall. Not the whole plant, but the little ends where it grows out and keeps those little tender soft green leaves. Those are always good. You can eat them raw, you can put them in soups, stews, fry them in with stuff, salad, that kind of thing. They're good. I didn't shake the dirt off of that one good enough. Lamb's quarter, no surprise, has a different flavor than tumbleweed. Lamb's quarter is a real delicate flavor. Whoop, there's water escaping. And again, it tastes like a salad green, but it's got a different flavor. It almost tastes like green peas. In fact, that may be it. It may have a flavor like green peas. Lamb's quarter when it's young like that. Quite nice, completely nice. All right. Other edible weeds. We got purslane. I always let my purslane grow in here. Purslane has a good flavor as well. It has sometimes almost like a little peppery sweet flavor. I don't know how else to describe that. A lot of these you just have to try them to know what they are, what they taste like. Purslane is good. This right here, I have no idea what this one is, but it makes a nice little ground cover. And while we're talking about ground cover, we're going to label that into the good weeds, because everybody says, oh, you got to keep your weeds out of your garden because they suck all the water out of them. Well, that isn't true. I mean, it really isn't true. And I've gotten into that even with farmers around here. The main thing that weeds are bad for is they get in the way and they make it harder to harvest, especially when the weeds get big. Because the weeds will grow up. They say they'll choke everything else. They might choke stuff out, maybe. I don't know. But one thing weeds do, and out here, maybe in other parts of the world, it's not as big of a deal. But out here, one of the good things the weeds will do is they shade the ground. They'll protect it from the sun and the wind. And I've told people, you know, you say the weeds suck out all the water, except there'll be spots where the ground is kind of mowed down flat or clean or whatever, even like in a yard or whatever. And it's dry and hard where the grass is, but you move over where the weeds are and go down in there, and the dirt's still moist and soft. Now, that doesn't mean I want to have weeds everywhere, although I often do. But the weeds shade the ground and keep it from drying out as fast. And so when I get a ground cover like that right there growing, I tend to let that stay. By the way, if you're wondering what like this dude right here and this thing here, that is for when we get a storm coming in, a chance of hail, then that'll keep certain things from getting beat up by hail while they're young. It also keeps birds and cats from stepping on them and making a mess of them as well. All right, we're going to find a careless weed. That's another edible weed that grow a lot out here. I may have pulled all of them. Let's look. Careless weed is in the pigweed family. Ah, there's some right there. All right. This is a careless weed right here. Careless weed, you can tell they got that kind of pink stripe running on the veins going to the leaf. But these are still young. Careless weed is another one that you can eat the tender leaves off of it until it's 6 feet tall. And I'm not kidding when y'all maybe think I'm kidding when I say when they get 6 feet tall. Careless weeds, ironweeds, even lamb's quarter will get 6 and 7 feet tall with no problem if they got any water at all, and literally produce a stem that's that big around. Wes and I did a video one time where we tried cooking with dried weed stems, using them like little kindling wood. And they burn hot and they burn fast, but they don't burn very hot apparently, because we could not get a pot of water to boil. Made a little rocket stove, and maybe the rocket stove is our problem. Maybe we just had a poor design. But we finally had to start adding just actual sticks, little tree limbs and stuff, to bring the water on up to a boil and get the job done. They put out some heat, so I guess if we had to burn them in a wood stove, that wouldn't be a bad thing. And this is why I talk about that kind of stuff, because you can see trees are not everywhere out here. We got a couple growing around my house here, but you get away from the house, there's no trees. So if it ever comes to that kind of thing, we're going to be in a tough spot for firewood and cooking fuel. Anyway, careless weeds, back to that. When the careless weeds are young, like these guys, and small, again, get the dust off of them. I was thinking about it a while ago. I ate a couple. And they have a flavor, I think it's kind of like kale. It's that salad green that they put on your plates for a decoration. And I think that's kale. Yeah, that's what that tastes like. Not bad. Now, here's the thing about it. They're all a good sweet flavor in comparison with some of the other stuff that's actually a little bit sweeter. Here's the thing about weeds, especially little guys like this. It's going to take a bunch to get full on. Weeds are good to have. It's good to know what you can eat and not eat. But don't count on those to keep you fed. If times get tough, and maybe they will, maybe they won't, you need to be able to grow some of your own food. And everybody talks about this, you all know it. You need to be able to grow some of your own food, and even more so, you need to have a bunch of stuff put up. I live in farming world, and this area out here is mostly farming and agriculture. And in some places it's easier than others. But growing a field full of wheat is not an easy thing to do. Growing a big field full of corn is not necessarily an easy thing to do either. There's all kinds of problems. You need to have layers of plans. Edible weeds falls pretty low on those layers. But gardening and food saving, food preservation, food storage, those are some better ones. Anyway, that's it. This went longer than I intended for it to, because it takes me a while to chew my food. But just kind of a little visit so we can talk. Enjoy the cool of the morning, listen to the mockingbirds. I love listening to mockingbirds. They are so pretty. And I'll show you something too. Right over there is a purple mulberry tree, and right through there is a white mulberry tree, and you probably won't be able to tell it, but it is loaded up full. We've been getting mulberries off of it, and my daughter made me a mulberry pie the other day that was incredible. But everybody else has been doing mulberry videos. Go see Anthony at Palmetto Prepared, Steve at Integrative Preparedness. Both of those guys have done mulberry videos recently. And of course, Bob Hansler, if you really want to get into some good foraging and food finding videos, just about any of his is going to have 10 times the information in 5 minutes that mine does in 50. So there we go. All right. Bye.